Yeah. So, hello everyone. I'm Advitiay Anand, and I hope none of you are asleep right now because this is the class. And today's session is about GitHub actually. But first of all, let me just tell you a brief about myself. I'm an MCA student from Chandigarh University, and currently I'm also a community moderator at Qubit. And I'm mostly about Android and Flutter development, that is mobile. And I've also dabbled into a little bit of web. So that's about me. And today's session is about GitHub. And we are not actually going to go into Git commands a lot, but we will have a brief for them because I see many of you have not come into the previous session, and that could help 5 or 10 minutes of a recap of just the basic Git commands. And also, this is not going to be an advanced Git session or GitHub session. I'm just going to tell you enough so that you can get started into open source. So with that out of the way, let's just get started. I'll be sharing my screen. And I hope my screen is visible. Shashwat, is it?
1 second. It's visible. It's visible. And just 1 second, guys. One more thing I want to tell: in case you guys have any questions, you can obviously unmute yourself and ask it, or you can also post it in the event discussion text channel, and we'll be taking it up.
Absolutely. And also in the middle of the session, we will have that lucky draw that many of you are here for. So don't leave in between. Yeah. And I'll just erase this thing. By the way, this thing that I've opened here is FigJam. This is a Figma tool that I'm using this time. Earlier, I was using tutorials points whiteboard, which isn't pretty. So, 1 sec. I guess I'll remove this. And let's start with the very basics. First of all, what Git is. Git is a tool that allows you to create multiple versions of your source code, of your project code, so that you can actually go back and forth in case something goes wrong. And it's like a checkpoint in a video game, so that you can come back to some earlier point where your code was working, and maybe a feature was less, but the code was actually working. So that is the gist of it. And there are some like really basic commands like git init that actually creates a project into a Git repository, and only after that you can use Git commands over it. And there is Git Checkout, or first of all Git branch, that lists all the branches of your project. That means all the different versions of the project that are there. All right. And there is also Git add for actually adding. I mean, it's a lot to take if you don't know these things, but just let me know once in the chat if any of you are facing any troubles with these, so that I can actually know what I need to spend my time on. In the channel event discussions, you can type your doubts, or you can also unmute yourself. Okay, so we do have something here. Okay.
Yeah, Adi, you can start off. In case there's something me or Sandeep will let you know in case there's any query here.
Yeah, okay, fine. So, I mean, that's about Git. How you use Git for like basic purposes, for creating branches, for going to previous commits. All right. And what GitHub does is, GitHub is like a platform where you can actually upload your repository, so the other people of your team or even the entire world, if you allow it, can see. So I'll just delete this or put this on side. All right. And let's create a circle here that should represent a remote. And remote is a central concept to GitHub because, as you can imagine, remote stands for something that is not nearby. And let's just try to make this bigger, because the remote repositories are the ones that many people can access from their own computer. For example, if I go to GitHub and let's just jump to any single repository, and this is one of the projects that I've worked on, and this branch right here, this repository right here that everyone can see, that is a remote, and I can actually use this thing called SSH or HTTPS to clone these things. Again, I'll explain these in more detail. So just try to get the concept right now. We have remote here, and affiliated to this remote, we have local repositories on each team members or each developer's computer. I'll draw these out. This could be my PC. So Addy, that's my nickname. And let's say Sandeep is working somewhere else on the same project. So this would be Sandeep's repository. And let's say Shashwat is also working on the same project. So that would be Shashwat's repository. And what happens here is that this is the actual product. Rather, this is the main thing that is being converted to the product. So whatever happens here is actually what the user deserves. All right, and that is what the user should see. Of course, there are things like CI/CD pipeline, but in essence, this is what the user should see. All right, and because I want to make changes to this, I want to create a copy of this on my computer. So I'll use the Git Clone command to make a copy of the remote on my PC, and that is the local repository. Similarly, this is what Shashwat has done here, and this is also what Sandeep has done here. All right, so that works well. That's my first time using example.
Sorry to interrupt you here. Toothless had a question. So you wanted to know if GitHub desktop application or the Git command line, which is a better approach.
Okay, I'll just read the question once. Can we use GitHub desktop application instead of Git command line? Well, we can. Of course, we can. Yeah, that's true. I mean, that is why the application was made, because not everyone is comfortable getting into command line. But the command line has more flexibility, and of course, it is more universal. You may not get the same GUI everywhere, and even if you do, it takes more time to actually move your mouse than use shortcut keys and get things done. You know, it just works in Flash once you get the habit of it. So that's why many people in the development industry, like most people, use the command line instead. Right. So in case you have any other doubts, just feel free to post them in the same section or unmute yourself. Right. So this is the concept of cloning. And how do we make clones? We use these SSH keys, or rather HTTPS. Like these two are means of copying the remote repositories to your PC. And for that we have the command git clone. I'll write it down here.
The difference between HTTPS and SSH?
That is a good question, and even I can't explain it in detail. For me personally, they are just two methods, and like they have their own mechanisms, but basically they are transferring data from one place to another. So I'm sorry, I can't really go into detail, but that's actually a different topic. So we can use, for example, git clone. On my PC, I open the terminal, I type in git clone, and I can copy either one of these things. But if you're new, I would suggest using HTTPS. Let's say copy, and I can just Control V here. So when I actually press enter and this command runs, a copy of this remote repository will be created in my PC. And I mean, this should actually make you wonder, how does the change that I make here on my local PC get transferred back to the remote? Well, for that we have something called git push and pull, and also we have pull requests. So no need to get overwhelmed by the jargon. It's just more commands, 2 or 3. So let's say someone has made change here in the remote, and I made the copy 2 days prior. So now the new changes that are in the remote are not in my PC. Correct? So how do I get those changes? Well, for that we have another command called git pull. And as you can imagine, git pull it pulls the changes from the remote to your local PC, wherever you are executing this command, git pull, and it will pull those changes to your PC. Correct. And once you are done making your changes on your local repository, how do you send them back to remote? I mean, git pull is for getting data, getting changes from remote to your local PC. But for sending data or for sending changes, commits back to the remote, we have another command called git push. Pull pulls the changes from remote, push pushes the changes from your local PC to the remote. I'll also write that down. I mean, it is getting kind of messy, I guess, here. So let's just move these a little bit far, if that is possible. Yeah, it is. And also this. So I hope things are clear till now. If you have doubts, just let me know. I'll try to explain it again in a better way. Okay. Yeah, I guess we don't have any discussions or doubts here. So we use git pull and git push to send or receive changes from the remote. But at times, it is possible that, let's say, Sandeep has changed the same file that I have also changed. And when I also push those changes and he also pushes the same changes, there can be conflicts. Or let's say I have made changes on my PC and there are new changes on remote, but they are on the same files, on the same lines. So that will create conflicts. When you merge 2 branches, that will create conflicts, and in order to resolve conflicts, we actually need to do it manually. I won't be able to show you here, but just be aware that conflicts are a concept, and when you actually start working on repositories, you'll get familiar with them pretty easily. Right. So Yep. Right. So this is pretty common actually. Even last time people had doubts about this. Now, I mean, I can't blame them because everyone has that initially, because Git and GitHub sound very similar. So I guess you can think of Git like maybe, I don't know, it's like the road, all right? Git is like a network, and I mean, GitHub is a platform that uses those roads to actually make something bigger. It is like a social network where you can upload your repositories, your Git repositories. Okay, to be clear, these commands that I'm using, git pull, git clone, git push, all of these are Git commands. These are not specific to GitHub. In fact, there are other platforms like GitHub. I guess GitLab and Bitbucket are also common. So I might be wrong there, but in essence, GitHub is a platform that uses Git as a technology. That's it. All right. And now that we have remotes here, let's try to understand how we can make contributions to open source, or how contributions work on GitHub in general. So let's say I'll try to find an organization here. Okay. So Opaya Android here is a very popular organization that also participates in Google Summer of Code and other programs, I guess. And excuse me. And we can see that this is their remote repository. So in this diagram, this remote thing here is this page that I've opened. Correct? And there is this tab here called issues. I'll just click on it. And we can see that there are many open issues. That means they have not been solved yet. And what issues are basically, they are things that are pending in a project. For example, you have to add a new feature, you'll make a new issue for it. Or if you have a bug to solve, you'll make another issue for it. And then in that issue, let's say there is this issue of duplicate cards or just add tests. I mean, this is easier to understand, I guess, that we need to add tests. We need to add testing. So inside this issue, there is some description about the issue. This is not very well written. I guess I could try for another issue. Hopefully we can find one. Okay, so again, there's not a lot of description here, but generally good issues have a lot of description. They have a title. They have people who have been assigned to solve these issues. That could be me, you, anyone who's actually working. And there is this progress, like what changes are being made in reference to this aspect of the app or this aspect of the project. So let's say if I want to contribute to this organization, my first step should be to actually read their README. This is the README here at the bottom, and almost all projects, all good projects have it, because before understanding the code base, we need to understand something in English first, what the project is about, what the organization does, I mean, things like that. You can't just start talking code. Nobody does that. And for that, there is, let's say, a brief introduction here about the organization, about the application, and some indexes, for easily finding what you want to find. So I want to contribute here. So there is this clear link to contributors wiki, and they have given some directions to where I can find help. Thank you for your interest in contributing. And there are lots of ways to help out, from joining a team of lesson creators to fixing a bug in the code base. Because open source is not actually just about code, but since we are here primarily for contributing to the code base, we'll focus on that here. But you can actually contribute in multiple ways. For example, you could be contributing to the documentation, which is actually even this part. You can contribute to this part, this whole text here. Let's say you find a typo, you can contribute there. Or if you're a graphic designer, you can contribute in those ways. Like any sort of contribution is a contribution nonetheless. So here they have mentioned clearly that to make it easier to get started, we have cataloged some of the different ways to help out. And basically this is something that the coders must read before contribute. And again, like there is this whole process that you need to understand the whole project first. You have to first of all clone it, of course. Reading this is for your knowledge, for understanding the project. But when you actually want to make a contribution, for that we again go back to Git and we copy the SSH or HTTPS. Or there is also another tool called GitHub CLI. Use anything, whatever feels easy to you. I would suggest HTTPS initially. Just copy it, and in your terminal, open the terminal and like create a directory, open source, and go into the directory. And then you can use the command git clone and you can copy. And if I hit enter here, you can see that it is copying the remote repository here. And once that is done, I can just list things and I can see that Opaya Android is now on my computer. Excuse me. So like that is something that has to be done at every project. Clone the repository, then go through their code base according to your level of knowledge, of course. If you don't think you are right now fit for contributing to code, maybe you can just try to find these people on other platforms like Slack or Discord, interact with them, talk to them, and a lot of the times people are willing to help you when you are trying to help them. So they will let you know where you can contribute initially, or if you really want to contribute to the code, they will let you know that these are good resources, you can refer to them, and once you have some basics, then you can again start contributing. Okay, so that was the initial step, that you read the README, get familiar a bit about the project, how it works, what tools, what libraries, what languages, all that stuff. And once you have cloned the repository, what you need to do is actually go into your IDE. Correct? For example, I guess I'll open Android Studio because this is an Android project. So I'll open Android Studio and I hope it opens up. Meanwhile, I can just see the doubts. Can we clone the specific files with the git command without actually copying them one by one from the whole code, or every time we have to clone the whole repository? Toothless, I don't know that why would someone want to do that. Just clone one single copy. If you want to download the file, you can obviously download a single file. I can just show you here, even in the GUI. Let's say I want to download the README here. Where is README? Just any file. The license is a file, right? So if I want to download it from here, I can just where is that now? I can just copy it from here, or files have download option generally. I may not be able to find right now. But I don't actually get your question. Like, why would someone want to actually clone just a single file or specific files? What are the prerequisites if someone have to make custom ROM for Android or modify them to add functionality? Okay, and that is again something very different from this topic. Android ROMs generally are held on XDA developers community, and honestly I cannot answer that question because it is much different from Android app development, or at least I don't have any experience in that manner, so I can't really guide you on that. But again, yeah, that is also open source. Coming back to the previous question, toothless. Sorry. The whole code, or every time you have to clone them. Generally, like if you want to work on a project, you want every file there, because if you don't have one single dependency, the whole project will break. So that's why, I don't actually get the question, but I guess 90% chances that it is actually possible. Almost everything is possible using it. But you probably won't need it unless you're doing something very specific. Alright. So I guess my Android Studio has loaded, and we have this Upaya Android project opened up because I opened up earlier. And even you can just open something like that. Just go to open and find that repository that you just cloned. Click on it and your IDE should load it up. And once you have that, alright, we have cloned the repository now. What next? The next is actually making changes to the code base. And the best practice for that is to make a separate branch. Alright, I'll just show you something in terminal. so that you get more clarity on what actually is happening. Oops. And yeah. So again, this is a terminal inside my ID. Works the same way, exactly the same way. So I'll type git status, and you can see on branch develop. Your branch is up to date with origin develop. Now origin here is the remote. That is, origin stands for this here, this repository here, the remote repository, that is named origin. And how do I know that? I can type git remote -v, and it will tell me exactly what all remote repositories are associated with this project. So we have origin, which uses this SSH key, and it also uses the same key for fetching and pushing. So for retrieving changes and also giving back changes, this is one repository. This is the remote set. We can also add more remotes. Let's say the project here is also based on another project. So I can add multiple remotes here using just git remote add name, the name that I want to give, and again the SSH key, whatever that I'm using. So I can add multiple remotes here. Right, back to the topic. We have cloned the repository. Now the next step is actually to create a branch to work on our issue, whatever issue that we want to work on. Correct? So git checkout be my issue. Right? And this command will do what? It will create a new branch, and we will now change our branch from develop to my issue. All right. And it says exactly the same thing. Switch to a new branch, my issue. Got it? And now if we see that git status, again, it says on branch, my issue. Now we are free to make any change in the project whatsoever without affecting the previous develop branch. Correct? And to be clear, the develop branch that I'm seeing here is on my local machine. It is not on remote. I'll try to just show you all the branches that are there. Right. As you can see, there is this develop branch on my local machine. There is this my issue branch that I'm currently in. And there are many branches that are on the remote itself that are not on my local machine. I mean, the list is very long, so I won't actually show you all these. But you can see that there is origin/head, origin/masked caret, and there are like hundreds of these. So just close these. Right. So now we have cloned the repository on our local machine. We have changed the branch. And let's assume that we wanted to make a change. Let's say I wanted to just add a new file here inside app, Java, and just for formality's sake, I'll add a new Kotlin file. New file. And please don't do that. Actually, I'm just showing you. It doesn't work and the project might break. So let's say I've created this file and I'll add, I don't know, val my name string. All right. And what's that now? Okay. So I've made this file now, and now we can see in status. One sec. Okay, it's untracked, I guess. Git add git status. Has that not been saved? That's very weird. I mean, okay, I'll just change some existing file already, I guess. Okay, maybe I'll change this 0 to 1.
Adi, sorry to interrupt you. Do you think this is a good time to have the giveaway, or do you want to cover this topic and then we can have it?
Just give me 1 minute. I'll try to.
Just finish this. Just wrap this topic up and then we can have it.
Correct. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure why it is not listing things. Okay, for now, just assume that something has changed and all right, I got it now. This is not the correct folder. My bad. I'm pretty stupid. Yeah, that is the correct folder. I was changing the generated folder, which is not right. Yeah, now it should work. I hope so. Yeah, let's add a statement here. Print hello. All right, and now you can see this green line here because we have actually made a change to the file. And now if I see in my Git status, I can see that it says modified, and this is the file path. The current file that I've made a change to, that is listed here.